Now, the next three sessions are a little different. We're presenting a range of perspectives on the concept of partnership within the biosecurity system in Queensland. We're hearing from community, industry and the private sector, and they're all online and with us today. First up, we're going to take a look at the partnership between government and the community of Tamborine Mountain in southeast Queensland and how they've come together to protect their community from fire ants. Kate Retzki, who works on the National Fire Ant Eradication Program, will talk you through how the different approach the team took on the Tamborine Mountain and the significant support that they had from the local community. Tony Hall's here from the Tamborine Mountain LandCare, and Richard Wistow, a Tamborine Mountain community advocate, are also going to share their stories on why it was so important to work together. As you listen to their presentation, listen out for the concept of trust and empowering others to take responsibility and act. And let's think about where the opportunities lie for where we could adopt this type of approach in other situations. Kate, let's kick off with you. Can you talk us through the current fire ant situation in southeast Queensland and why you adopted a new approach to tackle this challenge on Tamborine Mountain?
Absolutely. Please just allow me to share my screen with you. Let me know if you cannot see those slides, but hopefully all is off to a good start. Thanks so much for letting me come and have a chat today. Really appreciate the invitation. Over the past 12 to 18 months, we've been learning new ways to tackle fire ants in southeast Queensland, and in particular, that's looked at mobilising communities to take a more active role in treating for the pest on land that they own or manage. Now, this really is a fundamental shift in our approach to fire ant management, and there's been one project in particular that has demonstrated the potential that community ties and partnerships can have in managing a biosecurity issue. But first, let me put you into a fire ant state of mind and just remind you of the immense impacts that these tiny creatures can have on our country. That's if they are allowed to thrive here. So you could think about some of the more widely known pests. I think of cane toads, feral dogs, cats, camels, foxes. The red imported fire ant certainly outdoes them all in terms of the damage that they could do. So if we just let them to proliferate, the impacts could be parkland becoming unusable, cropland could be decimated, infrastructure destroyed, and certainly people, pets and native animals could be injured, or worse, fire ants can be fatal. So if we're unable to properly suppress, contain and ultimately eradicate fire ants, you can see from this map that it wouldn't just be a southeast Queensland problem anymore. Our modelling actually indicates that if we hadn't been working so hard to stop the spread for the past 20 years or so, the pest could already be marching their way up into northern Queensland and even down to our nation's capital, which is really quite staggering. So with such a big job to be done, we know we absolutely cannot do it alone. And if you read our 10-year eradication plan, you'll see that we are determined that a whole of community approach will be necessary if we're going to succeed in our mission. So this means helping industry, community, local government and others to essentially work alongside us to, yes, look for fire ants, yes, report fire ants as we've come to know over decades, but now even treat for fire ants themselves. So over the past year, we've done some really exciting new pilot projects where residents, schools, sports clubs, councils have taken up the task of baiting their land using products supplied by the program. So last treatment season, actually 3,000 fire ant treatments were done by people outside of the program. So it's a massive step in the right direction. And almost 600 of those were done by residents of beautiful Mount Tamborine. Now, if you haven't been to Mount Tamborine, get your skates on because it's amazing. It's an absolutely gorgeous part of the scenic rim. It thrives on tourism and horticulture. Yes, two industries very much at risk from fire ants. We've become concerned recently. This once fire ant-free community is starting to experience a number of new infestations found. So because of this, And certainly the tight-knit nature of the community, we thought it was an ideal area to pilot partnership with local groups to see if we could activate locals to treat for fire ants in their neighbourhoods. So we met with Tambourine Mountain LandCare, and it didn't take long at all to recognise that they certainly had a vested interest in stopping fire ants moving onto the mountain. We also had discussions with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and of course they're absolutely motivated in keeping their community and industries protected. They ran the Visitors Information Centre. So pretty soon we had a plan to all work together to get bait into the hands of residents. So I will let our partners talk about the detail of what they did with us, but I do have some results from the first phase of the project. And yes, we will be doing a second phase of the project this treatment season. So just a 4-week engagement campaign utilised our new community networks, social media, digital ads, road signage, all aiming to build awareness, support and participation. People had to register via an online form to take part. So there was quite a push to drive people into that digital space to get their free fire ant treatment kit. 15% of households registered to collect bait and treat their land. We also mobilised schools and parks to treat at the same time. The more land treated, the better the result, essentially. We actually surveyed the community after the first phase. We came to discover that online registration was actually a barrier for participation, and we've actually removed that element from the next phase of treatment. Instead, people will register at the point of collection. Oops, sorry about that. It wasn't a perfect project, of course. We did learn a lot about the logistics of getting bait to where it needed to go, but certainly the best thing for us to have discovered was that people really do want to take an active role in fighting fire ants, and that working with community partners is a great way to help achieve that. So I'd now like to introduce 2 of our new friends from the mountain, Tony and Richard. They both played a really important part in the partnership project, and they're going to take a couple of minutes now just to tell you about their experience. So over to you, Tony.
Okay, thank you, Kate. I assume you can hear me now? You can hear me?
Indeed.
Yes, good, thank you. Okay, I'm from Tambourine Mountain LandCare, as has been explained, and we became aware of the fire ant issue around about 12 to 18 months ago, when signs started appearing around the mountain saying fire ants have been found here. We, I guess, thought about this a bit and realized that it was quite significant and represented a potential threat, not only to our residents, but also to visitors, as has been explained. So when we were approached by the fire ant eradication program to see how we could assist, we were very keen to get involved in that. And basically what we were able to do was to provide some storage area for the fire ant bait, and then provide the delivery of that bait to the distribution point, which is the visitor centre, which is in the centre of Tamborine Mountain. So basically it was fairly straightforward as far as we were concerned. We stored the bait in our facilities and then delivered it as appropriate over the 2 to 3 week period, I think it was, or maybe a bit longer. In doing all of that, we did get some feedback from a number of people as far as the way the process worked. And as Kate has already mentioned, the question about registration was one issue. Another question or another issue was that some people, when they had registered, they registered nominating a particular area that they had, but when they came to have the baits delivered to them or pick the baits up, they found they didn't have sufficient bait to cover the area, the land area that they had when they looked at the details on the bait shakers for distribution. The other thing that I would specifically say is I distributed the bait over a few hundred meters of the LandCare area, and I had 5 of the bait shakers to go through. And at the end of the 5th one, I realized that it's not the easiest job to get the bait out of the shaker. So perhaps there needs to be an alternative for larger areas, needs to be an alternative method to distribute the bait. But in summary, the process, I think, worked pretty well. It would be good to see it without registration in the future. And we look forward to participating in the next eradication program.
Great. Thanks so much, Tony. Over to you, Richard.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
All right, great. Yes, the Wistow Information Centre, which is run by the Tambourine Mountain Chamber of Commerce, were really interested in becoming involved in the distribution of the ant baits. There were some really good positive outcomes from using the Wistow Information Centre. One was centrally located and easy to park for residents. And the other thing was that most of us were fairly familiar with the local community, the volunteers. And it was an opportunity not only just to be the distribution centre for the ant bait, but also to allay the fears of many residents on the mountain as to what the ant bait contained. The word bait often means, is used in the connotation for poisoning something. And so the idea of bait, there was a lot of concern. There's a lot of people on the mountain that are very concerned about the environment. And was this product safe to be used with animals and pets, etc.? And that was one of the great things, because it is totally safe, and we were able to allay their fears. And I think that for another round of distribution, this will be of benefit, and that we will ensure that the community is fully aware of how safe this product is to use. I think they're probably the main outcomes. 1 or 2 baits wasn't enough for a lot of the properties. So the opportunity next time round to have a little bit more flexibility in the amount of distribution is, of benefit. So overall, very successful, and an opportunity to allay the residents' fears about using the product. Okay, that was probably everything that we were able to contribute to the distribution.
Thank you very much. We'll be sticking around to answer any questions in the chat as well. Thanks, Steph.
Thanks so much, Kate, Tony and Richard. Really appreciate you being online today and taking that time out to share your story with us. It's great to showcase an example of how we're working with community to achieve some enhanced outcomes, but also to empower people to take responsibility and to act. As Kate mentioned, Kate, Tony and Richard will be staying online for the next 10 or 15 minutes. If you've got any questions for them, feel free to send them in the chat.